Hi there, this is Angelina and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be discussing Data Query Language, DQL. DQL functions in SQL Server allows you to retrieve data from a database. For this video, we will focus on the select, from, and where clause. Select is used to pick the columns or attributes of data you'd like to retrieve from a table in a database. And from is used to specify the table from which you'd like to get the data. And the where clause is used to specify the criteria or conditions to retrieve the data. And you would typically go with a mathematical or logical operator when you are specifying the criteria. Now you'd also see that I have here group by, having, and order by. Group by is used to combine similar values in one column. Having is used to filter columns for aggregate values only. And then the order by is used to display data by the order of a specific column in your table. Now, this video is only going to focus on the basics of querying data with SQL, hence we will stick to the select, from, and where clause. In my next video, we will do more advanced queries where we'll start to introduce the group bys, havings, and then the order by. So let's get started in SQL Server Management Studio. So let's create a connection like we usually do. I'm going to go with the SQL Server authentication. Now, for this demo, we are not going to be using our TestDB because this demo is about querying data. And if you look into our TestDB and you see the tables, we have only two tables with no data. We have the customer table and then we have the product table. Both tables do not have data, hence we cannot use the TestDB database for this demo. So now we are going to use AdventureWorks2019 for this demo. Okay, now let's toggle open AdventureWorks, go to tables, and we are going to use the table called, let me see how this looks. No. Yes, we will use the human resources of the employee. So you see the query we have here, we didn't type it, we just right clicked and then we selected the top 1000 rows. This is not what we want to do. This is the demo that we are about to learn the syntax. So we wouldn't go by this approach. But then what I want to clarify here is that as I did that approach, right click and then selecting the top 1000 rows, you see that it came with the database name. And what you see here is the schema, human resources. What you see here is the schema. It is a collection of database objects. Okay, so in the human resources schema, you find tables, you find views, you find sort procedures, and a whole lot of database objects. Okay, and then we have the table name. So in this case, the table name is the employee. All right, so let's close out of this and let's open a new query window and let's get started with some syntax. So the first thing we want to do is that we want to be able to have the opportunity to select everything from a table. Now the table we are going to be using is a human resources.employee. And the first thing we want to do is that we want to select everything, every record and every column that is present in the employee table. Okay, so we will do select. Oh, let me pause for a second and say this. If you do not have AdventureWorks already restored, I have a video that shows how to do that, and I'll share the link in the description below. Once you're able to restore that, then you can follow through with this demo, because if you don't have it, you may not be able to see the tables we are working with. So I'll share a link in the description below. If you do not already have AdventureWorks, I'll show you how to do that, and then you can follow along. Okay. Okay, so now we are back to selecting everything from the employee table. So we will do select and then we do star because the star here means all. Okay, then we come with the from and then we specify the table name. Now the table is human resources dot employee. Okay, now select the query block and execute. So this is how we select everything from a table. We didn't specify a column. We didn't specify the rows that we want to select. We just said we want to see all the columns and all the rows. This is what the star here means. On your keyboard is the 8, number 8, a shift and the 8. You should see that. Okay. Now we want to specify some columns. Okay. Now we want to select columns from the same table. All right. So we can copy the query here. Right here, and then let me just enter this because I'm about to put in a list of columns. All right, so right now I only want to see, let's say, business entity ID to sick leave. Okay, but I don't want the login ID. Right, so this is how you go about it. We will do the business entity ID. What did we want? The job, birth date. And you see, as I type in the names, as I type in the headers, we get this name pop-up. That is what they call the IntelliSense in SQL Server Management Studio. And once you get that pop-up, you just hit the tab and then it will insert that record for you. We want the gender and we want the hire date. Maybe that is enough. I mean, you see, you get the point. Let me just add one more. Salaried, flag, vacation hours. Okay, you can go on and on and on, depending on how many columns there are in your tables that you want to retrieve. Because for, like you see here, we have the login ID. You don't want to send a report out that contains the login credentials of your users in your table, right? So that is why you have the chance to be able to select specific columns that you are interested in seeing or reporting on. Okay, so now let's select the query block and execute. All right, so we only selected some specific columns, and this is how you do that. Now let's add some conditions. Remember, in our intro, we said that we are going to focus on select, from, and where. And now the where clause, we said it gives us the ability to select the criteria in retrieving the data. Now we are retrieving everything. There is no criteria in selecting how many rows we see. We only selected the columns we wanted, but not the rows. So now we still see 290 rows. So let's see how to add some filters. Okay, so let's say we wanted to only select the employee with the business entity ID 1. This is how we go about it. I'm just going to copy and paste this here, and then I'll add my where clause, and I'll go by this. Business entity ID is equal to 1. Now, right now we have introduced a mathematical operator. We use the equal to sign, okay? Mathematical operator. We use the equal to sign. So now if we select this query and we run it, we expect to see only one record, because out of the data set that we have, there's only one record where the entity ID is equal to 1. Now, what if we wanted to select more than one IDs? So let's say I wanted to see the business entity ID, let's say 10, 15, and 20, right? So let's see how we go about that. I'm just going to go down here, business entity ID 1, sorry, 10, I want to see 15, and I want to see 20. Now, what happens is that once I added the list of IDs that I wanted to retrieve, you see that we have this red squiggly line here because the syntax is inaccurate. The syntax is inaccurate because we have a list of values here. When that happens, you have to put the list in a parenthesis. Okay, we put it in a parenthesis, and then we change the equal to sign to in. Okay, now over here we have started to see how to use logical operators. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to execute. And now we are seeing business entity ID 10, 15, 20. Now we have 3 records. Okay, let's answer this question. I have a question here that I want us to answer. We are working with employee table, and we see that we have sick leave, we have vacation hours, we have salary flag, and a whole bunch of data points. We want to see the employees with more than 2 weeks vacation. Okay, now let's run the table without any filters or any conditions. We have the vacation hours, we have the sick hours. Okay, now 40 hours. This is just, I would say, an assumption. Okay, 40 hours is equal to 1 week, okay, of leave. And then 80 hours is equal to 2 weeks. Oops, what did I type? 2 weeks of vacation. Okay, so now we want to see employees with more than 2 weeks vacation. What do you think? You can pause the video and answer this question by yourself, and let's see. But then I'm going to go ahead and answer that. We are going to say that select from this table. Now this time around, instead of using the business entity ID, we are going to use vacation hours. Okay, vacation hours. And then what did we want to see where the vacation is more than 2 weeks? We have to introduce the greater than sign, and then we type in the number 80, okay, because the column is numeric. Okay, so let's run this and see. We have 290 records. Now let's run this and see. We are down to 57. Okay, so per the data set, we have about 57 employees with vacation hours more than 2 weeks. Okay, maybe we should start sending them email to start taking some vacation days, Now let's see how we can combine mathematical operators and then logical operators. So we do this. We want to see all employees that have I would say less than 80 hours of vacation and are single. Okay, so now I'm going to go by this same script. Again, you should be typing in the syntax, don't copy and paste like I'm doing. Okay, now we say employees with less or equal to. Okay, let's do that. Less or equal to. Of vacations, of vacation and are single. Okay, so now we would have to modify the where clause on line number 32. Okay, now we are saying that we want to see all the employees with less or equal to 80 hours. Okay, so this is how you do that. I showed you how to use the greater than sign. I'm going to do the less than sign. We want to see all the employees with less than 80 hours or equal to, and this is how you do that. Less, okay, or equal to sign. Less or equal to 80. Now we're about to add a logical operator. And, okay, marital status is equal to, what did I say, married? Oh, single, S. Okay, we have the flag to be S and M. S for married, sorry, S for single, M for married. Interesting. So now we select this and execute. And look at that. We see all the employees with vacation times less or equal to 80. So it starts from 1, I believe. And we shouldn't have any record more than 80. The highest we should have in there in this data set is 80. And then all the records that we are showing here, the marital status has to be S because we're saying and. Assuming we had done or, then we would have vacation hours in the list greater than 80 because we are not saying both conditions must be met, right? Right now I'm saying and because I want both conditions to be met before I retrieve the data. I want to make sure that the vacation hours are less than 80 or equal to 80 and they are married. However, for the same query, now we have 115, okay? For the same query, if I change this logical operator to or, that means we are going to have some records where the vacation hours are more than 80, but they meet the condition for single status. Okay, so let's see how many records we will get. Now we have 262. We have a combination of S and M because those that are in the vacation hours 99, they are single. They only met the second part of the criteria because we said or. Okay, so this is how to query data with SQL Server. We have covered select, from, and where clause. In my next video, we'll go more detailed and more complex queries and introduce the group by, the having, and the order by clause. Thank you for watching.